Go, Mommy!
Episode number 4.
Go, Mommy!
Hello, sisters. Welcome to Women with Balls in the Air. Join me as I uncover the modern-day secret to success. I'll share with you strategy, tips, and bonus interviews from today's most influential matriarchs. Career moms, it's time to take back your life and get into the game of gumption. And here is where we're gonna do it. Let's go, girls! Hey, my friend, thank you for taking a moment out of your busy schedule to hang out with me. I appreciate the loyalty and your will to consistently improve by listening to inspirational content. In this episode of Women with Balls in the Air, I interview an outstanding business owner mom who is crushing it at every aspect of her life. She's smart, successful, and so kind-hearted. She is the type of woman that this show is all about. I'm giving you a heads up on this interview first because of 2 lessons that I think could be of value. 1, please listen to the outtakes at the end, the part after the music outro. The behind the scenes, so to speak. This being my first interview, I was a little shaky on the technical aspect, and I thought we had stopped recording, but we didn't. So my interviewee didn't know that we were still recording, and actually I didn't either. So we were totally being our true selves. Me, I showed her my vulnerability and my honesty, and she jumped into the position of a natural leader, a natural teacher, and just a compassionate woman helping another sister out. And this is a great example of how we women can really help each other out any chance we get. And again, this is what the show is all about. And the second note of value I wanted to make is, again, this was my first interview ever. Is it going to sound a bit rough on my end? Hell yeah. Are you going to hear mistakes? Are you going to hear my voice crack? Are you going to hear how nervous I am? Definitely. You are not going to be experiencing Oprah here. And I could have easily said, I sounded terrible. I'm going to be embarrassed. Everyone's going to think I'm an amateur. I'm not airing this episode. But you know what? Who really cares? I am an amateur. So what? And honestly, I'm having fun. I'm trying something new out for my business. So my point is, I'm doing it. And I don't care if it's perfect. But what I do care about is giving you some sort of value that you can walk away with that can help you with your next challenge in life or your next challenge in business. So the next time you're thinking about putting yourself out there, whether it be in front of one person or thousands, just do it and have the comfort of knowing that there are other women out there just like you who are doing it too. So with that said, here's my first interview with the authentic Jessica Rhodes. Okay, sisters, let's get started. I am so honored to introduce my guest today, Jessica Rhodes. Jessica, give me a big yahoo!
Yahoo!
Awesome. Jessica Rhodes is the founder and CEO of Interview Connections, which is the premier source of finding and booking outstanding podcast guests. Interview Connections represent a pool of highly qualified guest experts that they connect with podcast hosts for interviews. Jessica is the host of a hit weekly web TV show, Interview Connections TV. She's the host of the Rhodes to Success podcast, and she is the co-host of the Podcast Producers, a 10-episode audio series selected by Apple as the How To Podcast show in iTunes. Jessica is a business owner, a speaker, a podcaster. She's talent. She's a content producer while being married with a toddler and a baby. Jessica, how the hell are you?
I am doing pretty well, Casey. I really appreciate you inviting me on your show today.
Absolutely. Tell me anything. Did I leave anything out?
That was a pretty good overview. So good starting point. Thank you. That was a wonderful introduction.
When you were 17, what did you see in your future?
Well, when I was 17, I was just starting to get this reality check that I was not going to make it on Broadway. I wanted to go to school for theater and I really liked musical theater. I was doing all the plays and all the musicals and I was taking singing lessons and dance classes and I really wanted to be on stage and I wanted to be in musicals. And when I was 17, senior in high school, I had some really great teachers. They were English teachers, but they also ran the theater department at our high school. And they said, don't major in theater. Don't. Like, and I'm
Really?
like, well, what are you saying? You're our theater teacher. But that was the best advice that I could have received, was to not major in theater and to let it be something that's fun and enjoyable, but not something that it becomes a grind. And so that was kind of where I was when I was 17. It was just this transition from envisioning and dreaming about being on Broadway to, all right, let's just do a reality and check and look at look at what's actually possible.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's great that you were able to make that decision for yourself and move forward. So that's great. That's great. So knowing what you know now, what advice about business would you give your children?
The advice I would give my children about business is to start a business or pursue a business that you've identified that there is a need for it in the marketplace. There are a lot of people that know how to take any product or service and make a business out of it. They don't care if there's a need for it. As long as you just find the target market, you can make it happen. Yeah, but it's going to be a heck of a lot easier if you start a business where you've identified that there is a need for that in the marketplace. Like, I listen to Gary Vaynerchuk's podcast all the time, and he's always like, the market decides. Like, you don't decide if your product is good. The market decides if it's good. So listen to the marketplace, but also, go after it. Don't worry about the stats that most businesses fail. Like, you will be what you think you will be. If you think you might fail, you're going to fail. But if you think you won't, then you won't.
Awesome. Absolutely. Over the years, being a woman, what do you find is the most important quality that women possess that can help them succeed in their business?
Just a drive, like a burning desire to succeed. And Casey, I started my business when I was pregnant with my first child. I wanted to have a business, or I wanted to have an income from home. So the need for me to start a business and have an income from home was because I wanted to be at home with my kids. So I think what sets women apart, and often moms, is that they have a burning desire to succeed. And it's not just often, a hobby or something, but it's because they're doing it because they want to support their family. So I've only ever had a business as a mom, so I can't necessarily speak for just being a woman in business without kids, but I know that being a woman and a mom in business, what definitely gives me the edge and the kind of that unfair advantage is that I need this to happen. Like, I need to succeed because there's no other plan B. And I want it that bad. So it was never a hobby. It was never, oh, hey, I need some extra cash, or this looks like it'd be fun. But this is what is going to give me the lifestyle that I want for my family. So I'm going to make it happen.
Okay, so let me ask you this, though. What price do you think you've paid being a mother and an entrepreneur?
Well, I definitely, because I have kids, I can't move at as fast of a pace as I could if I didn't have kids. I mean, I'm blessed to have a partner, a husband who is very supportive, very supportive. I don't know how you can build a business if your spouse isn't on board, because it's not easy a lot of times. And entrepreneurs are their own unique breed of people that are not always easy to deal with. So, having a really supportive spouse is definitely something I attribute a lot of success to. But because I have kids, I'm not able to, travel as much. Like I'm a big believer in going to conferences and live events. As an online business owner, you really can't replace face-to-face contact. So I go to live events. I've started exhibiting at live events and having a table for my business and a booth. And that really contributes to a lot of growth in the company, but I can't go to quite as many conferences as I want to. I have a 3-year-old and a 7-month-old, and
Wow.
I've breastfed both of my kids. So with my first son, I nursed till he was 6 months old, and then I started traveling. With Lucy, I am traveling and trying to make it work, and continue, to both, nurse her and then also travel. There's a lot of pumping happening over here, but again, like it definitely limits me. Like recently, I went to the Podfest conference in Florida. It's a podcasting conference, and actually brought my family with me. So my husband and my kids came with me. I was going to the conference during the day. Jamie would, bring the kids to me. I would nurse Lucy at lunch. But then, I was leaving the parties early so I could go home. And it was a serious balancing act. So I was talking to my husband and I said, I loved having you guys there. It felt like the best of both worlds. I could be doing my thing in my business, but then I'd have you guys there and I wasn't, sacrificing family time for business or business for family time. But I said, if I'm being honest, if you guys weren't there, I could have been in the zone 24/7 and not felt like I had to, so I could have been in the zone 24/7 and not have to feel like, oh, but I need to make sure I can, help out with bedtime at night and stuff like that.
Right. No, absolutely. How do you think motherhood helped you in your business journey?
Well, it has helped, as I mentioned, give me the drive, and honestly, it's my story, right? So, like I talk in these interviews, and my story is that I started a business. It's my big why. So I think that helps set me apart in business is that, hey, I'm a mom entrepreneur. I did this because I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I don't know what my story would have been if I started my business, without kids, but I do think that being a mom has set me apart. It has helped. I've attracted really great people to my community because they relate to my experience as a mom. So I think it's the passion and the drive, the need to succeed, and it's also helped me helped people connect with me who can also relate to my story and be inspired by it.
No, absolutely. And I got to tell you, Jessica, one of the things, now I've been following you for maybe 6 months or so, and one of the things I loved, which really just hooked me in was, and I can't remember exactly what it was, so I'm sorry, but
That's okay.
you were, I think it was on Connections TV, but you were in the car doing a show with Nathan in the back, and he's saying, "Mommy, please be quiet." It's like, and I love that. That was like, to me, that's what it's all about, and I love that you were in the car with the kid and doing your work, doing the business, getting down, and that was just like, that's what hooked me. And I'm like, I have to have her on my show.
Oh my gosh, Casey, that's so awesome to hear that. I really appreciate that. It's, that's like the best thing that any podcaster or video marketer or anyone can hear is that, hey, I watched your show, because you do these things and you're like, is anyone listening? But that's another thing. Motherhood really teaches you how to multitask. People ask, oh, because I do weekly videos. I have 2 podcasts. I blog. I do an email newsletter. I send a newsletter in the mail. Like I do, pardon my French, a crap ton of content marketing. And there are a lot of people out there that are like, well, I don't have time. I have kids, so I'm busy. I can only do this thing. Well, I call, BS on excuses like that, because you just have to make it work and you have to prioritize what you want to get done. So if I have to get a video out and I'm with my kids, guess what? They're going to be in the video. So it really does help me multitask and prioritize as well.
Great. What are your biggest challenges, do you think?
My biggest challenge.
What's your biggest challenge? Your number one?
Honestly, my biggest challenge is having time for myself, because I schedule in, we have childcare part-time during the week. So I've got like 2 to 3 hours in the morning, 2 to 3 hours in the afternoon in my office. I have an office outside my house now. So I've got some dedicated work time, but when I'm home with the kids, and there's really no alone time. It's like a couple times a month you happen to be in the house with no spouse and no kids, and you're like, I think I'll go to sleep now. But that's honestly my biggest challenge because as entrepreneurs, we are, even when I'm not with my kids and I'm not at work, I'm probably thinking about my business and what I can be doing or thinking about something that needs to get done or seeing an email that needs to be responded to. So just not having, kind of self-care, that's often my biggest challenge. Because then when I think, oh, well, I have an hour, I should go get my nails done. I'm like, no, I can't. That's a waste of time. I've got this other stuff I need to do.
Oh, I hear you. Some challenges that many women have are the 3 F's, I call them: fear, focus, and fatigue. Okay. These are issues that get in the way for all of us. Let's talk about the fear category. And I want to know what the most ballsy thing is that you've ever done in business, why you did it, and what happened afterwards.
One of the most ballsy things I've ever done in business. So I've got this story that's become kind of legendary for me. The first big conference that I went to on my own was New Media Expo 2014. And this was the first big conference I was going to. If you've ever been to a conference, you know how much money you invest, not only with the ticket price, but with the hotel and the travel and the food. I mean, the whole thing together is like, it's a big investment that you're making up front, and you really need to make sure you get a return on it. So I went to New Media Expo, and you're nervous. You don't really know anyone. I'd been connecting with people online, but I was going there not knowing many people. And so one of the ballsy things that I always do is I get up and ask questions in the sessions because it gets you in front of the microphone. You can say your name and your business, or your name and your podcast, and it kind of gets your face and voice up there in front of a lot of people, even if you're not speaking at the conference. And so I went to this conference, and I was in a session that was that Jamie Tardy and Abel James were speaking, and I go up to the mic and I said, I'm Jessica Rhodes with interviewconnections.com. And Jamie, she's the host of Eventual Millionaire. And she and I connected online, and she says, oh, everyone, this is Jessica. She books podcast guests. She books, guests for podcasts. You should connect with her. And in that moment, I just said, and I'm giving away a month free if you sign up at the event. And it was ballsy because I just totally pitched my services right there in their session. Like she kind of gave me the floor, and I just grabbed the opportunity by the horns, and it was really good. Like I actually got a client a month ago who met me at that event because of that very move. So I still have business coming in from people who met me at that conference, and I would not have met them if I wasn't, quote unquote, hey, you're the girl that asked the question in Jamie Tardy's session. Like, right. It was just insane. So I just took that opportunity. I wasn't shy, and I just said, all right, she just gave me the floor. I'm going to put it out there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. How about most embarrassing moment in your business life?
Oh my gosh. Well, I will keep it vague because it's so embarrassing. I'm not going to give too many details, but there was
come on.
We've all had this, but there was a moment where an email was replied all when it should not have been reply all. And that's all I'm going to say, Casey. It's like putting salt in the wound right here. Oh. But there was something that was said in an email that went reply all, and it should not have been. And it was mortifying and terrible.
What lesson did you learn? What lesson did you learn from it?
I learned that you should never type in anything on email that you wouldn't want put on the front page of a newspaper. Like, even if it's a private email, nothing should go in email that you don't want. I heard Mari Smith saying that on an interview she did recently. She said, even Facebook message, direct message, I treat everything as if it's public. Yeah. But you know what I said? This was a couple months ago, and I said, but the bright side is I'm going to have a story to tell on a podcast when they ask me my biggest failure.
Perfect. Oh, goodness. So tell me, let's talk about focus. Mm-hmm. What is the single most important element to focus on when starting your new biz?
The thing to focus on when you're starting a new business is focusing on the long term and niching down. So starting a business, it takes a long time to get traction, and it takes a long time to get noticed by your target market. When I started Interview Connections, I started it because I was in my first business, I was a virtual assistant and I was booking my clients for interviews on podcasts. And I had a lot of podcasters tell me that this was a need they have. I'd done a little bit of market research. I'd asked people, hey, if I started this business, if I started this service, would you pay for it? And I was getting people that said yes. So I created the whole business. I launched the website thinking, well, I talked to all these people. Then I went and told them all that the website was live, and then crickets. And I'm like, but all these people said they were going to sign up. Where are they? And it took time. It took a lot of time to start getting traction and to start getting noticed. And so it just takes patience. So I think focusing on your high revenue generating activities and just doing the grind, like it is not easy. I mean, I hear people, we book podcast interviews. So we work with clients who get interviewed on other shows, but also who host their own podcasts. And my recommendation is always to do both if you can. I mean, yes, get interviewed on other shows. It's easier because you don't have to produce the podcast. You don't have to edit. You don't have to be in GarageBand like you are right now, Casey.
Right.
For me, I'm sitting here on Skype. I'm not looking at all the controls and things like that. So it's easier. However, your business will grow if you are doing all of the hard work as well. Recently, I was listening to the Ask Gary Vee podcast, and John Lee Dumas called in and asked a question, and he said, a lot of people are getting on Snapchat now and using that to market and connect with their community. And John asked Gary, he says, Gary, you've been giving a lot of advice around Snapchat, how to grow your following. I haven't really loved your advice so far, so I want you to go a little deeper. And Gary said, you haven't loved it because it's just hard work. Like, that's it. It's just hard. You want to grow your business. You got to do the hard work and not just try to find the easy ways. So, hey, can you just get interviewed on podcasts as a guest because it's easier than hosting your own show? Yeah, but the growth of your business will reflect it. If you're only doing the easy things, your business is not going to grow as fast. So you got to do the hard work and you got to be in it for the long term because it's going to take a long time for people to start noticing you.
Right. Absolutely. Fantastic. That's great advice. Doing so much, what is a time management tip on how you avoid fatigue?
Let's see. Avoid fatigue. Well, there's like two different answers to that because avoiding.
You're like, it's impossible. You can't avoid it.
I know. I'm like, well, I can give you time management tips, but I'm not sure they're going to help you prevent fatigue. I mean, my time management tip is to block your time and really respect your time. So I got this advice from my coach. Stop answering your phone. Unless you have a scheduled call, do not answer your phone. And this is really hard because you're thinking, but what if it's somebody that wants to be my client? Very successful people are not just sitting there answering the phone whenever it rings. Let it go to voicemail and call them back. Schedule a meeting. That's step one, because then you don't have interruptions coming in every 2 seconds and you're not answering the phone and answering emails. Don't let other people dictate how you run your day. Schedule your time and work, in your in your schedule. Fatigue, I don't know. I've been tired for 3 years. But
it gets easier. It gets a little easier when they get a little bit older. Promise.
Yeah, that's what I hear. Yeah, I mean, go to bed early, I guess. I'm not the best person to tell you how to avoid fatigue.
Okay. Thanks for being honest. I appreciate that. I know I'm a mom too of a 5 and 6 year old, and it's very difficult. I hear you.
Some light at the end of the tunnel.
There is. No, it gets easier. I swear. Okay, so let's dig deeper into the business of the business: momentum, marketing, and monetization. Okay, so how do you build momentum for your business?
Well, momentum is, I think, a lot about perception, what other people perceive you to. You want other people to perceive you as having momentum. So the best way to do that, and in my experience, is to be marketing your business in all different ways. I don't recommend just marketing on social media because you're relying 100% on another platform. So you are going to demonstrate momentum if you are doing weekly videos, if you are putting out podcasts every week, if you're posting blogs and you're getting interviewed on other podcasts. Like, so my coach, Jim Palmer, he's also my dad, actually. He talks about the $1 million platform, and the $1 million platform is, podcast interviews, having your own show, just kind of what I've been mentioning here, doing all this marketing. When you are marketing on all these different platforms, people are going to start turning their heads and looking at you and thinking, wow, she must be really doing well if she is marketing in all these different ways. She's got new content on her website, things are being updated, she's getting out there, people are talking about her. That's how you demonstrate momentum, by just being in constant action and constantly putting out valuable content that will attract clients and customers to you and getting people talking about you.
Excellent. And so what are the ways that you market yourself and your company? All those different, just getting out there to all those different distribution channels?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Blog. So, write blog posts, do a weekly podcast, do weekly videos, put them up on YouTube and on Facebook organically. Send a weekly email newsletter to your list. I just started doing also, in addition to that, a monthly newsletter in the mail. So people actually get something in their mailbox,
Cool.
keeping the post office in business. And then, active on social media. So not, for a long time, I've been doing all that content marketing, but wasn't the best at social media promotion. You kind of promote your episode when they're first live and then you forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I started using Meet Edgar to get all of my archived content out there. And that made a huge difference because people are not going to your website and going through all the archives. But if they keep seeing, all this content being posted on social media, that's how you get it out there, and that's how you market your business and show momentum.
So after building all this momentum, Jessica, when did you start really monetizing? When was that turning point for you?
So let's see. I launched Interview Connections in September of 2014, and it was definitely a grind. Like, it actually took a while for me to actually start doing the content marketing because I was just busy working in my business, totally behind the scenes, just working in my business, creating all the systems, figuring out how to make everything work. And then I started doing videos that following April, started doing my podcast the following October. So I started my podcast a year after I actually launched the business. So for a while there, it was this cart before the horse. First I was just doing running the business and making a little bit of money. And then I started doing all the content marketing, the videos, the podcast. And it was, definitely putting a little bit of money out to invest in my marketing. And that's where, after the podcast launched, probably 6 months after the podcast launched, and I was doing videos and podcasts, that's when the turning point was, where the content marketing started to pay off, and I started to see a little bit of a return on my investment in getting out there and positioning myself as a thought leader and an authority in the podcasting space. Because if you're putting content out about your area of expertise, what your business is in, people are going to start looking at you as an authority, as a go-to authority in your niche. So it was probably, early 2015 that things started to heat up. And coincidentally, well, I don't know if it's coincidentally, but that's when I was pregnant with my second child. And I got really, really focused because I wanted to have a maternity leave.
Right. Exactly. No, I hear you. Okay. So, Jess, let's give our listeners a media makeover. Okay. What is your favorite or most inspiring film?
My favorite or most inspiring film? That is a good question. I if I'm being honest with you, I don't watch a lot of movies because I don't really have, they're too long for me. But the first thing that comes to my mind is the movie The Pursuit of Happiness.
Yes.
With I think Will Smith.
Mm-hmm.
That movie, like, if you don't cry during that movie, I don't think you have a soul, because
Right. Now, if you don't go out after that movie and do great at whatever you're doing, I mean, yeah.
It's
it
just
was very
that
inspiring.
movie was, yeah, I mean,
one.
just really, really inspiring. If anyone hasn't seen it, I highly recommend it. It just shows, hard work, and really has we've been talking a lot about, being a mom. I mean, Will Smith's character working for his kid, and it's that movie, I think, is probably the most inspiring movie that I've ever seen.
Yeah, absolutely. How about book?
Book. So I don't know if it's necessarily my favorite book, but the most impactful book for me was called The Barefoot Executive by Carrie Wilkerson. And the reason this is the book I often tell people when they ask a question like this is because it was the timing that this book came into my life. So when I was pregnant with Nathan and I was just starting to get into business, my dad was telling me about being a virtual assistant and having an online business. He said, read this book. My friend Carrie Wilkerson, she's also a mom entrepreneur and she started her business to be at home. And so I read that, and that was just opened my eyes to everything that was possible in having my own business. And so to read about somebody that was doing it and doing it well was really inspiring to me. So if folks, I know we have a lot of moms listening to this podcast. Carrie Wilkerson is an awesome woman, and her book, The Barefoot Executive, is a great book to read if you're just getting started in a business.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. And what quote inspires you the most?
So the quote that inspires me the most is from the book 3 Feet from Gold, and that was co-written by Sharon Lechter and Greg S. Reed. And I don't know about the word for word, but it's essentially you never know when you're 3 feet from gold.
Mm-hmm.
In business, it takes a while to start getting that traction and showing momentum. I remember, when I was first getting started, I kind of started when I was pregnant, and then Nathan was born in March, and around May, it was getting hard. Your savings goes down and you're chugging away and you're trucking away and you're trying to make something happen. And you never know when that new client's going to email you and say, hey, I want to hire you for your services, or I'm ready and I want to start working with you. And that quote just kept me going. And it kept me moving forward. So you never know when you're 3 feet from gold. And I would read that book if you want to know the context behind that quote. That's a great book to read.
That's awesome. Okay, girls, you can go to the show notes page that accompanies this episode for all the links and info and the film information also, and the awesome book if you want to see it there. Okay. And Jessica, if we lived in a perfect world with no boundaries and you could have it any way you want, please finish these 3 sentences. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In a perfect world, my business would
be generating $1 million a year in revenue.
Awesome. In a perfect world, my personal life would
be the way it is. I'm really happy with my personal life.
Yay! That's great. That's a great answer. I love that.
Yeah.
That's great. Oh, good. Okay. In a perfect world, women would
rule the world.
Oh, I like that one too. You can come sit at my dinner table anytime.
We need more women in leadership. Oh my goodness.
Oh my god.
Yes.
Well, we're working on it. That's what we're doing here. We're working on it. Okay. All right. So let's try and get our listeners one step closer to their perfect world by giving them the best piece of advice you have to offer.
The best piece of advice I have to offer for women and for moms, starting a business is to really prepare your mindset and yourself to know that this is a long journey, and that when you start a business, you are not just having a job where you work for yourself, but you're going to invest and you're going to have some hard times, and it's going to be hard, but the reward is going to be even better. So my best piece of advice is to just know that it's not easy. And if you're okay with that, do it.
Oh, that's awesome, Jess. And where can we find you out there? Tell us.
Come to my blog at Jessica Rhodes, that's Rhodes, jessicarhodes.biz, and that is my home base on the web. You can find my blog, links to my TV show, my podcast, and my website for interview connections, all from jessicarhodes.biz.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Okay, sisters, pat yourself on the back. You just gave yourself the gift of knowledge and empowerment with Jessica Rhodes here on Women with Balls in the Air. Head over to CaseyDiStefano.com and go to the show notes page that accompanies this episode. Thank you so much, Jessica, for sharing your authentic story. I really appreciate it. And many of the sisters out there that are listening today, we all appreciate you. So thanks again for being with us.
Thanks.
Okay, girls, pat yourself on the back and say thank you. You just gave yourself the gift of knowledge and empowerment with Jessica Rhodes and your friend on the other end, Casey Stefano. Remember, you can have a successful career and abundant family life without pulling your hair out. A future chock full of meaning, happiness, and stability. And even more importantly, you have the power to create a role model for your children of strength and stick-to-itiveness. Don't ever give up on your dreams. Keep listening, and I'll get you there. It's our time now. Stay tuned for the outtakes.
It's great. A lot of fun.
Oh my God. That was my first interview ever.
Really?
Yes.
It was great.
I was so nervous.
Oh, well, it didn't show. You did an awesome job.
It was funny because I was really interested in what you were saying, so then I stopped looking at my notes.
But go with that. Casey, that's honestly my biggest piece of advice. You were so interested. Don't look at your notes then.
Yeah.
Because honestly, you can, if you just want to ask all of your scripted questions, then because think about the opposite. And this is a great advice. I was just at Podfest, and Jeff Brown, hosts the Read to Lead podcast. He talked about, being a great interviewer. And he kind of gave he gave this advice in a different way. He says, write your questions and you won't have to, not listen. But if looking at your questions is keeping you from really being interested in listening, then that's going to hold you back. So I would say have your questions there. So if somebody is not as much of a talker as I am, if you have a guest that's giving shorter answers, you have questions to look back at. It's kind of your roadmap.
Right.
But just go with it. Like if you really like what they're saying, just engage with them in conversation. Ask follow-up questions that aren't necessarily written down on your paper there. So don't worry about going to your script questions. Just be engaged, be interested, and just take the conversation with wherever you want to go with it.
Thanks. Thank you for that advice. That's great.
Yeah, sure. It takes time to kind of, get interviewing, and just slow down a little bit. Because I know sometimes you want to just stop and start over. Just take a deep breath. You can always edit out the silences.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. I see what you're saying. Instead of jumping right in.
Don't worry about jumping right in. It's not a live show. So, when they're done, giving their answer, instead of starting and then feeling like you need to re-say it, just pause and just give yourself a minute to kind of collect the thoughts in your head.
Gotcha. No, that's great advice.